But all the Prime Minister has is meetings, announcements, signing ceremonies, but never shovels in the ground.
The Alberta MOU will build a pipeline to Tidewater. The Alberta MOU will build carbon capture and storage.
A debate across the floor with a resumption of Parliament this week. Debate that helps set the stage for Pierre Poilievre's leadership review when Conservatives gather in Calgary in a couple days' time. And joining us now for a look ahead to the vote by party members, Michael Solberg, a partner at New West Public Affairs and former Harper government political staffer. Michael, good to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, Michael. Happy to be here.
All right. Coming off last year's election outcome, how would you describe anticipation heading into this leadership review?
You know what? I think anticipation is very high. I think Conservatives are eager to convene and get back together kind of as one party under one roof. And of course, at the beating heart of conservatism, which is, of course, in Calgary and Alberta. So I think, delegates and party members are excited for the events of the remainder of this week. And ultimately, all eyes on Pierre Poilievre, where we'll see him kind of in his truest form, as this is a venue that, he can totally curate, the schedule, the speech, everything is firmly under his control. So I think we'll see him at his best at a very interesting time for the party. They're looking for renewal, not perhaps in terms of who their leader is, but ultimately, if they can beat Mark Carney, if they can finally defeat the incumbent Liberals. And I think there is a sense amongst members in the lead up to this convention that we're probably on the eve of another election. So I suspect that the rhetoric, the speech, the energy will all reflect kind of a party that's ready to, once again, hit the pavement and ultimately hit the polls.
In the lead up, how much effort will either the party or the Poilievre team put in ahead of this vote? Canvassing, consulting with membership to ensure support is there?
Well, I think that's been the primary focus of Pierre Poilievre, of party leaders, is to focus on this leadership review. I think an enormous amount of resources and time has been put into the planning of this convention, into reaching out to delegates, working with constituency associations, because they want their leader to have the broad endorsement from party members and party delegates, so they can put kind of this behind them and then get to the real work. Which is, of course, planning for another campaign, another election, and figuring out how they can differentiate themselves from Mark Carney, propose an alternative view to Canadians, a conservative view, and a conservative alternative to Canadians, and try and win another election here. They've racked up consecutive losses here, and that's not lost on members. We're pushing now well over a decade here of Liberal incumbent rule, and Conservatives want to change that. And I think they want to do it with Pierre Poilievre, and they want to get to the task of actually planning for that campaign, which will happen after this convention is over.
Now, polling out from Nick Nanos this week puts the Liberals and Conservatives within 5 points. That's the two parties. However, when it comes to the leaders, Mark Carney sits at roughly 53% compared to Pierre Poilievre at 25%, and there are similar numbers from Angus Reid. How heavily do you expect some of those numbers will weigh on party members when they take into consideration the bigger voting perspective?
Well, it's no doubt a concern, I think, of members. It's obviously got to be a concern of Pierre Poilievre himself. If this race does center again on personality, that of course does not favor the Conservatives right now, as you've seen the numbers, and those numbers are not new. Pierre Poilievre has been trailing Mark Carney on kind of the preferred PM metric for quite some time. So do I think that they're going to go and vote with this in mind? Probably. I think certainly some will. But really, there's no alternative right now. And Pierre Poilievre has remained popular. At least he's been able to keep the Conservative Party, broadly speaking, popular in that two-party kind of horse race polling metric. So I think there are ways that they have to correct for that. And I think that centers on policy. They have to avoid this Pepsi-Coke scenario that they're suddenly in with the Liberals. On the big policy issues, they're very, very similar. And in the absence of policy differentiation, it could center on personality. And as I just said, that does not favor Pierre Poilievre. So I think delegates will vote with that in mind, but they'll also vote with, look at what Pierre has gotten us. 10 years ago, 35-point basement would have won them a majority government every single time. Obviously, the landscape has shifted significantly with the ushering in of the new kind of era that we're in, the two-party system that we're in with the eradication of the NDP. But Pierre Poilievre has done an enormous amount to keep the party competitive, and I think party delegates will vote with that in mind as well.
Now, in the outcome, how much of a focus do you expect there to be on the percentage outcome? How much will that figure end up mattering?
Yeah, it's interesting with these leadership reviews, because in all cases you just need 50% plus one technically in order to stay on. But every leadership review has kind of different expectations for where they should be at in order to really capture kind of that broad support and feeling like they're leaving with some momentum. I think in this case, 80% plus is probably what Pierre is looking for. I point to Stephen Harper's leadership review in 2005 after the 2004 election loss, where he got 83%. I think Pierre Poilievre would be looking for similar numbers there to put kind of questions about his leadership behind him, unify his caucus once again, grab a tighter hold on the leadership again, and then march them into what's very likely the eve of the next election, which I think will be very, very soon.
On your earlier point about the importance of this being in Alberta, on Alberta dynamics, what are you watching for? Maybe where conversations around the drive for separatism is concerned. How dominant a talking point might that be on the floor?
I'm not sure it will be, again, because the Conservative Party, this is the one time where they can control every aspect of the venue. They can control the discussion points. They can control what the leader says. They can control the questions that are asked of the leader. Yes, there are breakout sessions where I think some of these ideas will be discussed. But, it's not in the interest of the Conservative Party to be distracted, I think, by what so far is a provincial issue. Yes, it's about an issue that affects the Confederation as a whole, and ultimately I think the party needs to have a viewpoint on this. I don't think they can have a viewpoint on anything but Alberta should remain in the Confederation. This is a national party, after all. Pierre Poilievre is vying to be the Prime Minister of Canada, after all. So I think, it's possible that they weigh in on this. But I think the controlled message out of the convention will be that the Conservative Party is ready to form government of a unified Canada with Alberta within it.
All right. We'll have to leave it there, Michael. Good to speak with you again. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thanks so much, Michael.
Michael Solberg is a partner at New West Public Affairs and a former Harper government political staffer.